huge event for the neighborhood. If you've never participated, please come out. There are parties throughout the neighborhood. There's a whole little website. You can check it out. Definitely 19th Street is a huge enclave. Activities along White Oak are a little more diminished than they used to be. You're not closing the street down. We're closing the street on 19th Street from Ashland to Rutland. Most people have parties. There are hundreds and hundreds of parties. There are the little pedicabs and things. We, of course, are having a party. We're having our party from 5 to 8.
Yep.
Having it at 1035 Harvard. We have a band, and we have food trucks, and we have snow cones with or without alcohol. We have a tour of 1035 Harvard, which is the most expensive listing in the Heights at the moment at $2.8 million. House isn't finished, but it'll be air conditioned, and you'll be able to get a feel for it or whatever. It should be a very nice party. It's kind of the pre-party. You could come to ours and then go off to 19th Street or go off to some others. The mayor is coming to our party. He'll come at the end, and then I will go with him along 19th Street so that he can make a little political appearance in the neighborhood or whatever. So he doesn't have no speeches or anything of that nature. But I mean, just so you know, if you wanted to bond with the mayor, he'll come towards the end of the party. We said 5 to 8, knowing it'll last a little bit longer than 8 or whatever. But it gives you a chance to pop over to 19th Street if you want to. We have shuttles going back between our venue and 19th Street. The number one issue of all of these events is that there is no parking. I mean, I will Uber from Dayland to Harvard or whatever. There is no place to park over there. You get 400 or 500 people at 1035 Harvard. They're parking 5 blocks over. So keep that in mind. I would walk, or I would Uber, or I would plan on catching a pedicab or whatever, even to get to 1035 Harvard.
Hamilton Middle School's offering parking.
Perfect. Okay, great. And from there, you think they'll have pedicabs that'll shuffle people around or whatever?
I'll let the PTA people have it.
We're not having a party here, so we'll put up the sign. I'm sure we'll close the office a little bit early. People, of course, could park here, but it's a pretty good. It's hot as hell at Whiteman at night. I mean, it's hot. So be aware if you're parking here and you're trying to walk to 19th Street, which is what I've done, you will be toasty by the time that you get there. But we encourage you to come out, bring clients, bring builders, bring friends, bring past clients, future clients, or whatever. It's designed for that purpose. It's designed to entertain the people. So, any questions about that?
We have a great band.
We have a great band. Who are they?
Craig Kinsey and his band, and he just played at Mucky Duck, and they're awesome. They
Great.
bring out a great
That was
crowd.
Aaron.
Star.
That's perfect. Okay, any questions about Whiteland tonight? It will be crazy in the neighborhood in the evening, so it's tough.
And it's till 10 o'clock on night.
Yeah, I think we're closing the street until 11 this time. It's till 11, but there's 15,000 people out on 19th Street, and plus the private parties up in all those little venues. It's a little hectic over there on 19th Street, but so enjoy the madness or not. But there's plenty of other little parties, people walking around and everything. So we are having a lunch and learn today at noon. Aaron, help me with that. We're doing branding. What are we doing at noon?
It's on specifically like how to just use our branding stuff to have a steady, free stream of marketing going through yourself. Our blog, our Facebook, our advertising, and our parties.
So we're doing that right here, conference room, or where are we doing
Right
it?
here at noon.
At noon. We're serving lunch to those people that show up.
I guess we have to.
I guess since
You better.
someone getting charged.
Either that or it's just a learn.
Has anybody signed up or?
Oh yeah, like 10
Okay,
minutes.
perfect. Okay, sounds good. Well, that's another opportunity for you to take advantage of that. Okay, any other general things I need to be talking about? I am going on another little vacation. I'm trying to get out of the heat. I'll be gone most of next week. I'll be available by phone. I have internet and phone service where I'm going. So I just won't necessarily be in the country. So I'm off to Buenos Aires to see the Paris of the South. I'm on my architectural tour of South America at the moment. So, but I should be readily available. Brandon, Archer, everyone's available. I have a phone. I can be available for you. It is a high of 50 degrees in Buenos Aires also, which is another reason I'm going at this particular time. Okay, I want to teach you today everything you should know about permitting, okay? With regards to the city of Houston, both repairs and then new construction, remodels or additions or anything. I kind of want to start with just the general permitting needs and repairs. So, if you're in a house and you replace the water heater, you're required to pull a licensed plumber, you're required to pull a permit, replace the water heater, and then call for an inspection and have the City of Houston guy come and inspect the installation of the water heater. And they're checking to make sure that the consumer, homeowner, is safe, that we're properly ventilating the gas, that it's not going to explode, and that if it does overflow, that there's a procedure for the overflow. I mean, they're checking to make sure that the consumer is safe. I was in a meeting yesterday and doing some stuff with the city on the fire chief and the new fire selections. The city's major investment in permitting and building standards have reduced fires by 95% over the last 2 decades. It's made the city more safer by having a higher building code, a higher level of people. There are 400 inspectors out inspecting every day these sort of things to ensure that homeowners are protected or whatever. So when a homeowner does a repair, for the basic homeowner, they barely know these things. They barely know when they're supposed to get a permit, when they're not supposed to get a permit. If your AC goes out and you need a new air conditioner, the rule is that air conditioner guy goes down to the city and pulls a permit, you replace the air conditioner, and the city inspector comes out and re-inspects the air conditioner, re-inspects the furnace. All of those sort of things really require a permit. So we're gonna answer all your questions. I'm not gonna hang up here, but I mean, we have this little project list, which we're gonna forward to you later today, and we'll put on back to agent. It talks kind of about when you would need a permit, predominantly for things that are plumbing and electrical or mechanical oriented, or some form of addition, okay? So, you don't need it to redo your floors, you don't need it to paint, you don't need it for a fence unless you're adding an electronic motor to a gate over there, then of course you would. You don't need it to replace nominal siding or rotten wood or minor roof repairs. Permits are not required for any of those things. But you are required for a permit for most everything else. So if you replace the roof, you're required to get a permit. We've talked about plumbing, electrical, if you do an addition, if you open sheetrock, if you move electrical, those things require a permit. I'm a realist. I know that 99% of the time we don't get permits for those sort of things, and it's common in our world, and I get it. Homeowners do things on their own. Believe me, we do AC work 10 times a week at Boulevard Realty, and rarely is there a permit called for any of that. I mean, rarely does the AC guy go and get a permit. Rarely does the plumber go and get a permit when he replaces the water heater. I mean, I understand that it's not there. But what I need for you to understand is that in our contract, when you agree to something, okay, then the repair, both as a part of the contract or in the amendment or after the inspection, it requires the seller, so you represent the seller, and you've agreed to replace the air conditioner coil. You're required to use a licensed person to do that. They're required to pull a permit, and it's required to be inspected these days. Okay? And it rarely catches us except when you have that persnickety buyer the day of closing that says, you didn't get a permit. I want you to go get a permit. I want to be an asshole and hold you to the letter of the contract which says you're going to use the licensed person and you're going to get the permit. So you need to be aware. You need to be sure that you're telling your sellers that they're required to pull a permit and have those things inspected. You need to make sure that we represent the buyer, that you understand if it's going to be done by permit or not. Many times we negotiate and the seller's going to go and do something. We have a lot of handy sellers. And so long as they say that in the amendment, seller to replace the water heater, not using a licensed plumber, then you're perfectly protected. The person knows what they're doing, everybody accepts that, it's fine. But if we go and replace the air conditioner at Birdsall that was written into the contract, AC didn't work, they write the contract, say seller to replace the air conditioner prior to closing, and you go to closing and they say, I want a copy of the permit, and we didn't get a permit, it stops the closing, and you gotta go over there and call for a permit and specs, and here's the issue. 99% of the time, when you call to get a permit to replace the air conditioner coil, they find 5 other things that are wrong, and you gotta fix those things, because now the city inspector's been out, and he saw the ventilation didn't work, the secondary drain line didn't work, the overflow pan didn't work, the capacitor didn't work, the strap wasn't done right, you know, so they highlight these other things that are now open, and it creates a, you know, more cumbersome environment because you're not getting the final inspection until you get those things done. It creates problems. It creates problems in real estate all the time. I need you to be aware that people are pretty smart about whether or not you found a permit or not. So, it is very easy these days. The city of Houston's made it easy for us to check something. So, I don't know, who was it, Amber or somebody at 1426 Harvard? We represent a buyer. We got under contract at 1426 Harvard. Immediately the guy goes to the website, sees that there's pulled a permit 2 years earlier and never finished out the work. The work was never inspected. Most buyers today know to go and do this. Even if they're just buying the basic house, you should get in the habit. When you get something under contract or you're making an offer, pull up the address and see if they have any open permits. You'd be surprised the large number of people and large number of addresses that have open permits. And we could just try, well, we closed this one out now, but you can put it in. You can put 1426 Harvard. So you can just go into the city website and search by address, and let's look at everything that's happened to 1426 Harvard last 3 years. We're not going to bring up everything forever. So you can pull up this address, and you can slowly find what's going on at 1426 Harvard. So here, see if we can see it all over here, but this is kind of
So this website is to get the project numbers if you don't have them,
okay.
and then you enter the
Okay,
numbers.
so let's pull in this number, 16034203. When you have the project number, then you go over and you come to this website. We're going to send you these links. I expect you to pick all this up right this second. See, what were they doing on this one? I don't know that that was the right number.
I think it's 1643.
Yeah, just copy it. 16034203. 16034203. I don't think we're there yet. 4203, right? I don't think we're there yet. Okay, so this is Tomball. Let's go. All right, let's write it down for him. 16034203. Okay, we're just
203.
203. Okay, here's something going on at 1426 Harvard. We pull it up. So this was in 06. We did some electrical work, and this was some framework. We can almost see right here what they've done. Let's click in and see what this was. So this was a garage apartment that was in the build line. We talked about this a few months ago. There's a 3-foot build line in the building code. This garage apartment was grandfathered, but they did some work, so you have to have a firewall into the section that's in the 3-foot build line. So they made them tear out the sheetrock and reinstitute 5/8 sheetrock, 3/4 inch sheetrock versus 5/8 inch sheetrock, which would be fire rated versus the non-fire rated, to protect the neighbor in case it gets it on fire. The neighbor wants to make sure that we at least have enough time to stop the fire before we burn the house next door to it. So there's a reason. So when they started doing some work in this old garage apartment, they pulled a permit for the electrical. Okay, just going to do the electrical. They made them firewall the walls that were in the build line. This is a great example. All right, go back out to another one. We got this house our client got this under contract, and we found several projects that were not final. So you pull a permit for something, electrical. let's say you don't even do the electrical. Let's just say we change our mind. The bids were too expensive, now we're not doing it, we changed our mind over there. After 6 months, that project is gone. I mean, you only have 6 months to work on that permit. You can call an inspection and extend the permit, so you just call it even if it's not done to keep the permit open. Otherwise, you have to go in and recreate the permit in order to close it out, because it's going to say that it's still open. We don't know what happened over there. So go to another one.
Timbers?
Well, back to, let's stay at 1436 Harvard for just a second. Go to the other project numbers, because there were many projects.
Oh, I closed that.
Okay, we'll just go to the next one. These people, I think they had to fix the staircase,
You're searching on project number. What's that?
address, yeah.
Do you do this with every sort of period house?
We do it. We go and look and see if they have any open permits or not. Okay, because many times, it happens all the time, people call me, they buy a house, the people didn't finish out the project. They get a letter from the city of Houston that says you have an open permit now, right? And what the city does to protect the citizens of Houston is they can go and remove your utilities. They can take your water meter away. That way they know that you're going to go finish this project or not. So if someone's sitting over there and one day they don't have water because they didn't finish out this project or something, I mean, that is really the teeth that the city has. We can stop your utilities because most things are gas, electric, and water oriented or whatever, and that would at least make it safe, whatever, over there. Yes, there's no bad questions during this deal.
Yeah, so how do you know when you look on there whether the permit, whether it was finished out? Does
Okay.
that say finished out?
Perfect. For this one, we can look and see. Let's just go to this one, 1603 and 43. We're going to answer your question now.
Okay.
I didn't write it down.
Bill, what's the cost of full permit?
Depends on where it is. In historic districts, we get a reduction of permits in historic districts, just by nature of them being in the deal. If you just go and pull a permit, the AC goes out and want to pull a permit, it's about $105, $125. The fees have gone up, and it's gone up fairly significantly over the last few years or whatever. If I get a permit and I'm doing plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and other things, I mean, it can be $800, it can be $1,200, but per item, it's basically about $150 unless you're doing something major. Okay, so here's something that they were doing. This was something that they needed to inspect on the piers. This is, I think, we found this sort of thing. They had done some work, and back in, so you can click on the detail and it'll tell you everything that you wanted. So they needed an engineer letter on the existing seals. They needed to reevaluate the concrete footings, the stabilization of the seals, and they got all this, and it shows me that it was all approved on 4/27. So,
And it says it's closed.
yeah, so two things you gotta look for. The item, this is just the structural port, was approved, and after it's approved, the work's approved, you still have to go close out the project. If you get the work approved, it's still gonna say at the bottom, this project is still outstanding. You have to do something. Just calling the inspector does not final close the project, and it'll say it's still open because the system doesn't know if it's closed or not. So the work was approved and the project was closed out, okay? For this project number. Doesn't mean there's not more project numbers. We saw at 1426 Harvard, there were 4 different projects that had been pulled there, okay? So these are all just kind of repairs. This is not a new house. This was not an addition. This house, my client remodeled this house in 1999. It was permitted then and it was final then. These are things the current homeowner did, was going to sell. Our client got under contract and we found these open permits. The seller did not disclose that he had these open permits. And it did cause Frank working down there. We had to reopen these projects. We had to call the city inspector. When they came out, they found additional problems. Those had to be rectified. And to protect our client, the buyer, we had all that work done prior to closing, and we had the project finally closed. We just represent the buyer for this particular project. The other day, Kathleen was at HHC, and it comes up that someone bought a house 536 Harvard. At 536 Harvard, someone just bought it. After they bought it, city comes by. Neighbors really turn most people in, I'll just be honest. It is not the city. They are not patrolling around here looking for violations. Although there are times they go back and look to make sure that all the projects really work fine and close and send people a letter. But the neighbors, is that what happened there? So at 536 Harvard, you went to address again? Good, I pulled it out. They got red tagged for a problem. We got a new buyer. And the problem was that the previous owner had gotten a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Commission, and they didn't follow what was appropriate, and they did things that were inappropriate, okay? So there are 3 of these sort of things we need to learn. In a historic district, in order, before you do the work, if it's on the outside, you have to have a certificate of appropriateness, either from the director or from the commission, okay? If you're replacing a door, you still need to get permission from the director. You can't replace your door in a historic district. Can't replace your window, hardly at all. Can't replace rotten siding without permission, even though you can replace rotten siding and you can get an administrative approval. You have to have the approval in order to do the work. Can't just go out there and do it. It's an automatic approval. They want to monitor to make sure. So I had Pizer, 732 Pizer, had vinyl siding. I couldn't sell the damn house because of the vinyl siding. So it made the owner pull off the vinyl siding because the fear of what was under there was great. There was basically a wooden house, needed some painting, and there was a little porch that was a stucco addition over there. And when they went to repair, without getting the administrative approval, immediately the HOA and the neighbors shut them down. They got a red tag. We had to go get the administrative approval. It was an automatic approval. It's not difficult. You just have to get it. And so long as we're keeping like siding, replace the stucco with stucco, replace the wood with wood. Where they got in trouble was to replace the stucco with the siding, they removed the trim around the window, which makes historians very sensitive. You know, and so you have to make sure that you put back that exact material and can't lose it or whatever, and that was what they were most concerned about. So, 536 Harvard is a mess. I mean, it's just a mess. So, but I can look over here. Here's the project numbers for 536 Harvard. This was a remodel in the historic district. You can see we got electrical. These are permits they pulled. Electrical and permitting, grading, HVAC, the sidewalk. Got a lot of different permits going on over here. But just, so you can click on 536. Frank put in the number and let's see what's going on over here. We had some electrical work that was said they were going to do. So when you go and pull a permit, and let's say you're doing a big remodel, you go down to the city, and you're going to tell them what you're doing. I'm doing electrical, I'm doing plumbing, I'm doing HVAC, I'm replacing the sidewalk, I'm adding a fireplace, sprinkler system, all the things that require a license. They're asking you. If you have a plan, they're pretty smart to pick up those things from the plan. So they're going to put the fireplace, the summer kitchen, the sprinkler system, the electronic gate. They're going to mark it in the system, and they're going to leave it kind of open. You know, and so the city's going to create this little template that says you're going to need these inspections: HVAC, structural, permit, grading, fill, just general things. These are sprinkler systems generally, shower pans. These are inspections that you would need. So I can tell that they had an electrical permit and they got all that approved. Woo, we did get there. I can tell somewhere along the line, by the middle of October, we're having problems. Something's problem because it's putting it on hold here in August, it put it on hold in November, it put it on hold over here on the 15th. So you can click on it and it tells us, long story, that there's all kinds of problems. They did work that was not in the certificate of appropriateness. They had a plan that said they were going to do this, put in a window, and they put in a door. Big no-no. They're pretty smart to be able to figure out the difference between the two, okay? If you had a picture of the window and it was going to be 4, and you go over there and you put in 8, no. Anything on the outside other than paint, you got to follow what's there, or you got to go back to the HVAC and get the deal. That's the certificate of appropriateness For the permit, you've got to do the work, and you have to get a certificate of compliance, okay? So in residential work, when you're done, you get this little certificate of compliance, okay? You can get it if you get an air conditioner repair, or you can get it if you remodel a house, or you can do it if you extend a house, or you can do it if you're a brand new house. In any scenario, you really want this certificate of compliance. Not to be confused with the certificate of occupancy, which is often used in our industry, which only applies to commercial. We have a certificate of occupancy for this building that has to have inspections for the elevator, inspections for the sign, inspection for the smoke detectors. This is a certificate of occupancy, has nothing to do with houses. Certificate of occupancies only deal with commercial. Got certificate of appropriateness, certificate of compliance, certificate of occupancy, okay? The biggest thing about occupancy, just so we know, is both ADA compliant, got to be able to have a disabled blind person get into work here and be able to work. So they got to have an ADA compliant bathroom. They got to have a ramp or some way in the wheelchair for them to get into the office, and they have to be able to work in the environment. They have to be able to park. It's pretty easy to get variances these days for the parking. It's not that easy to get variances for any of the other stuff. You can get a plan. So Greenwood King, when they bought the old building, they had a 5-year plan to come into compliance. That's how they were able to open, and they had the ramp at the back of the building. Next door, the first floor, it does have a certificate of occupancy. It's a house that they work on, and then that big long ramp on the side of the building over here, and the back door is compliant. You get a little bungalow on Heights Boulevard and you want to convert it to the law office, you can do that. It's unrestricted, except the walls are so narrow, you're never going to be able to have an ADA compliant hallway or bathroom. So how's that ever really going to work? I mean, it isn't going to work that often. So it's harder than you think. I could do an extension here, except I can't get a permit to do an extension of this building because I would not be in compliance with the parking. We have maximized the largest number of parking that I can get for a building this size. So I can't enlarge this building. I can't get a permit because I don't meet the parking code. Could get a variance, I think, today. It's probably easier today than it used to be, but parking is a big deal. Okay, we're in permitting. We're talking about repairs. We're talking about closing out your item and still getting the project final closed at the bottom. Of course, this one is not final closed. They have a hell of a lot of problems, okay? So, definitely their project is outstanding. They're going to keep getting these letters, the homeowner is or whatever. Is the previous seller somewhat liable? I certainly think they are. We were not involved in this transaction. We're just being nice neighbors explaining to people how it works. Okay, so repairs are negotiated. We're replacing the HVAC prior to closing. We've agreed in our contract that it's going to be a licensed person. The licensed person is required to get a permit. We've got to start making sure that we follow up on this. Here's our next biggest issue. We sell a lot of new homes. 99.9% of them are not final closed. They're just not. The builders don't quite understand this concept either. When you have new construction, you have this series of things that were on the plan, theoretically. Marshall. On the 1511 Marshall plan, it shows a summer kitchen on the plan. We didn't build the summer kitchen on the plan. So he could theoretically have his building inspection, his HVAC inspection, his plumbing inspection, his electrical inspection, get all these inspections, and he can get his final inspection, which just is over the structure. That's all that means. And still have an outstanding permit because it said he had a summer kitchen that he never inspected. Okay? Only way he's going to get his final is to call for the, go down to the city, remove the summer kitchen, call for the inspection. The inspector comes out and says, oh yes, there's no summer kitchen here. We'll close out the summer kitchen. Outdoor fireplaces, sprinkler systems, sidewalks, these things are always kind of lingering over here, okay? So just because the builder says he got the final, doesn't mean his project is final closed. They're very confused about this sort of thing, okay? So when we have new construction, we need to get the habit, almost, it's just, really good, they just write there. Builder provide project number and option period. So we can I can track where we're at on these inspections, and you can start following along and just let your buyer know how they could go over here and find it.
Just Columbia.
Okay, 732 Columbia, we did a 2,000 square foot addition to a 4,000 square foot house over here. I did this work, Bill Bolton Restoration did the work on behalf of my client, and you can see we're over here, doing a lot of things. We had something, I don't know what this was, maybe it was an outdoor fireplace or something, and we canceled or revoked this area. But we got all this stuff approved.
We kept the same sidewalk, that's what that.
Oh, we kept it in a remodel, you can keep the same sidewalk, and in a historic district, the current code is for you to expand to the 5-foot sidewalk. We only have 3-foot sidewalks. In a historic district, they will yield to you and let you remain with the 3-foot sidewalk. You don't have to go to the larger one. In new construction outside of the historic district, they're not really yielding on those sort of things. We got all of these little inspections. When we got them all done, we called down, we get this final close. At a bare minimum, I need for you to print this and put it in the little file or upload it at Back Agent that shows that the project is closed out. This does not get you this certificate of compliance, which you do not have to have. There's no law that says you have to have it. You gotta have this, and you can just print it from the screen of the computer, put it in the file. This costs another $105. Someone's got to pay for it, and you got to go down and get the little certificate. You don't have to have the certificate. You don't have your college diploma on you anymore. I don't have my Social Security card, but I mean, you need this to be able to prove in the next 4 years that the project was closed out or whatever over here. So kind of at a minimum. So I thought we might just take a look at a few and see if you have any projects that we might just glance at. Yes?
1744 Bank.
Let's just pull it right on
I may
up.
not want to know all this.
I know, you'll be surprised in your spare time, you're gonna pull these up.
Well,
You're
I
gonna
know
say,
how much was done before, and I know what she's done. I'm wondering if they pulled permits.
Wait, seriously,
No.
I want to know this.
How did you get to that screen?
All right.
Because I couldn't find the one where you do by address.
This is, enlarge this one and show them where, you go to the City of Houston permitting, and you can search, you back up one, you can just go back.
Seriously, Bill, do I want to see this?
Yes, absolutely, it's gonna come up later.
Okay.
No, no.
You can, so you can go to this, we're in no, so here's,
This was kind of confusing because it only works on Internet Explorer when you search for the address. So just save the link to your email and then.
we'll send you this little link, but you go to the City of Houston permitting.
Yeah, on Chrome it just won't work.
Because,
I'm gonna Safari.
and Safari, it's not working. I only get the one where you can do by project
Okay.
number.
It is, the city's not the most
So when
updated.
you search for address, use
Yeah.
the.
If you already have the project number, then you don't really need to go here. The address is these ones, so 1744 Banks. Okay. Yeah, let's just see what we can find. Now, if they haven't done anything in 3 years,
Well, she just did air conditioning.
well, she didn't get a permit. You know they
See, she
didn't
didn't
get
get a permit.
You know they didn't get a permit. Now, I'm a real.
Okay, now look, wait. I talked to somebody and they said, well, did you get a permit?
And you say, no, they didn't get a permit.
No, I'm talking, I did, I ripped out those, what do you call those standing in place concrete steps? I ripped those out, demolished those, and then put in a slate patio. And he said, did you get a permit?
What did you do again one more time?
Okay, those, they're never part of the building. They're independent, they're concrete
Steps.
steps.
And you needed a permit for that.
And ripped
Is
those
it more
out
than
and
2
did a
steps?
slab.
Was it more than 2 steps?
I think it was 3.
Greater than 2 needs a permit. 2 steps do not need a permit. 30 inches on the deck?
Is it Bank Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bank.
Is it nothing?
Nothing showed up.
Nothing
No,
showed up.
no
So
permit.
they did all
So
their
you can have
work.
a deck, if you're less than 30 inches, you don't have to have the railing, they don't care, they don't
Oh,
want the
guess what
steps.
they did? I did get it, because I did little baby steps in the shape of a.
If they're not consistent steps of 7 inches, give or take 1/4 inch, then you're not gonna meet the code again, because you've created a trip hazard.
Oh.
So, here's where, these are perfect examples of,
Shame on
we'll call for the permit, and let's just say it happens to be 31 inches high. Now you're forced to put in the railing, because it's a safety hazard. Your steps are not gonna meet code because there has to be a consistent level of steps. No, that step is never gonna meet the code. So then you're having to, sometimes you have to cut back into the deck in order to make the grade, where you can go up 6.5 over 7, up 6.5 over 7, and get to the deal. And in order to be compliant.
You're gonna turn me in.
No, I'm not gonna go there.
I pay hush money.
Okay.
425 West 23rd.
Okay. These west are pretty hard. Put in, let's just see what happens. The address, the west and east, it gets a little confusing for the city, so let's just see if we can find it. When in doubt, okay, we got a lot going on here. Okay. This is lovely. So this is a new home. Let's just pick up,
Wait a minute, did I do the wrong address? 425 West 18th?
no, you said
I
23rd.
mean, West 23rd.
Yeah, 425 West
This is an
23rd.
old house.
Okay, well, we
Wow.
Have you seen it?
can- they have a.
That kicked out 14.
Wait, it's pulling up 14,
It's at your
25.
4.
Oh, there's different, you
No,
have
425.
Yeah, it pulled up 14 for, yeah, go up.
Fourteen.
See, and I think the city's not, you did fine, Frank, just go to the top and see. Okay, go all the way to the bottom. It pulled up anything with 425.
Oh, okay, all right, so there's
Of
nothing
which
there.
there was nothing there
How
for
far back do you have to
425.
be worried about?
Well, 3 years, 3 years is what I would worry about. It depends if so if in 2008 in North Hill, they replaced the water heater and it's still behind the closet door and it's not vented, it's gonna pop up in your inspection. Or if the water heater's on the ground, it needs to be raised, or if it's out in the garage, and so it doesn't mean that you don't need to be worried about it, but I mean, it's theoretically grandfathered, but it does not meet code. Are you aware of something that doesn't meet code? Well, sure. You've got plenty of closets with just the light bulb in there. That doesn't meet any code, but it's there.
So you represent the seller.
You represent the seller.
You recommend them to take
Well,
care of.
on their seller's disclosure, they're gonna say, did they do any work without a permit? And they're probably gonna check no, that they didn't. But then when it's found out that they did, they look like a liar. So now you have a trust issue, the whole deal. They're never gonna believe a word you say or your seller says, okay? Never gonna, so you have to thoroughly ask about it. We're gonna do these classes in September about the contract and the seller's disclosure, all again, kind of like we've done at the Boulevard Boot Camp. We probably will go someplace else. There'll be a full day of going over the other. You've got to ask your clients point blank, have you ever had an insurance claim? And they're gonna ask, it comes up all the time. The other people collect insurance and there was hail damage and they took the money but they didn't replace the roof. All of the time this happens. You just
Even
can't
if they
imagine.
call the insurance company and tell them they have a problem, I had that with my last one in January.
It pops up.
Because it will pop up and then they go, but then we didn't file the claim. It doesn't matter. They
My
know
guy
you
on
had a problem.
Rutland had a beach house. He wrecked his $50,000 boat in Lake Travis or whatever, but it's filed on your homeowner's insurance over here. So of course the buyer found out about it, and of course they thought we were lying, that we now had a $50,000 claim. They didn't. You have to explain it was the boat, it was in Austin, it was on his lake house, but it's held under, so
Right.
you have to ask these questions. Do you have any insurance claims? Have you done any work without a permit? Do you know any work that's not permitted? It's better just to disclose this stuff because it's going to come up. It's going to come up. All right, didn't find anything on that address. Yes?
2115 Gospel.
2115 Gostic. So this will be an interesting one because I bet they got their finals and never final closed. I would bet.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Let's just see. The problem when they're that far, so how old is this house? 3 or 4 years?
7 years, 9 years for the house.
Okay, so here is when they got the permit to do the deal. So let's just click in over to the main permit number.
Final closed.
You did, and you saw it?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's great.
I don't know, it's not that number.
985.
Here's where they got all the work,
It says expired.
but they never closed out the project. Okay? They never closed out. The project still shows open. Now, it looks like, click here, there was something on the plan that
That's just a review that the city does and they remove it right away.
It says,
if someone had called to the city, they would have removed this and it would have said, project is final closed. But the work was inspected and they did get their final inspection. They looked over here. They never got their little certificate. They never got their diploma. They just went to their final engineering class, but they never picked up their diploma. Someone's got to go over there and pay for the diploma. They don't give it to you unless you pay for it, right? And they give it to you. So this is what it's saying. In this deal, if this was printed, it can show that all the work was done, which is pretty good. You're 98% there. Typically, it's the one thing, it's the sprinkler system, or it's the fireplace, or it's that leaves us out there. This one is showing me, okay, shit, they got the majority of it done.
Okay,
It happens all the time.
you've got 3 lines of inspection comments. You need the
Plumbing,
comments,
electrical, building, HVAC.
no, down on the right-hand corner. See, it says, inspection comments, that's where it needs to be saying approved, approved, approved.
All these need to say approved.
Okay.
And they could have said something, and as long as the one date later is approved. So this one could have said, need letter, and over here, you could click on it and say you got the letter. So let's just try and do 824A Alexander. This will probably be a pain in the back, but we may need Arturo to get us the numbers. But let's try. So, which ties it, we had a project, 824 Alexander, there's A and B, so it'll be confusing when these pop up. We closed B. I represent the seller. I thought they knew what they were doing. I shouldn't think. Quit thinking. So, or whatever. We closed the B. A was set to close. The neighbor sends me an email that says, this sewer connection is illegal. We've met with Ellen Cohen. We've turned them into the city. Blah, 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 blah. I immediately, when I got the information, because this ties into our ethics deal, immediately sent it to the other agent. I mean, you can't. It's going to come out. In 10 seconds, I sent it to the other agent. Then I sent it to the builder. Then I sent it to the investor. And the builder said, oh no, we had a permit. We were inspected. It was all approved. And yes, they had it inspected. And yes, it was approved. And after it was approved, when the people bitched, the city came back and placed another hold on it before they got their final close. They never called to close out the project. They closed out a stupid project, but it was still open. And so then they could go tag onto this project and create holy hell over here on Unit A. Meanwhile, I go look on B, and they had problems over here on egress. One of the bedrooms didn't have a large enough window in order to meet egress. So let's see where we're.
This is B.
This is B. Click here. We've already closed this house. I represented the seller. Okay, so here we've been playing with this house. We closed probably in May or June. 2 units, really an issue with A. We're over here in B. Neighbors bitching will cause the city to do something. They just placed a hold on B over here also. So here they're saying inside we managed to get, because we had a problem with the addresses, we had problems with the engineer letting, the fire blocking, the patio door was not tempered, which means it wasn't shattered. I mean, it's kind of telling us what the problem were. They did work on them. I mean, they're showing me they worked on it along the way. But this project is probably still outstanding because of the one next door. Okay, that's all right. Let's go to, this was B, let's look at A. A is the one with the sewer problem. It's a sewer connection. We did manage to get all this resolved finally.
And these are not connected, right, Bill? They're separate, single family?
They're single family separated by 1 foot firewalls. Let's see how we're doing over here. Arthur. Okay. We finally, I think, we were over here playing. We managed to get all of this plumbing crap resolved on the 18th, the 14th. You can see we're over here, but we still seem to have some problem here, Frank. Click right here, which is the driveway. Sidewalk, no, right there.
In a historic district,
This
you
is-
can't do a wider apron?
So
You can, they want you to, but you're not required to.
Okay, because otherwise you ruin your curves with the
They
big
fix
cars.
it in the evening.
They had an afternoon inspection.
So the comment was the AM and then the
Oh, they got, so AM shows me we had a problem, PM came later and was approved. So all they really need to do is call Arthur, they need to call and close out this damn thing as quickly as possible before something else comes up.
Yeah,
Right.
or the neighbors.
Like today,
So you're
Yeah,
gonna close
today.
and buy the certificate? Or-
Yeah, I would probably just, for me, I would probably go buy the certificate, giving it to the new owner, because I'm just telling you, we have had this happen so many times. We had a house burn not too long ago. That was new construction. Immediately they start suing everyone, and immediately show them, I had a fireplace, I had a licensed plumber, had it inspected, the fireplace was inspected, the structural inspection was inspected, the house was final closed. They dropped everything immediately in about a day. I mean, it's, if I follow the rule in the city, and it was inspected by, if the guy was licensed, the city inspected it, and it was final closed, I mean, I don't have any liability if the house burns down. But we had not done that, we'd have been in holy hell over here. You'd have been working for Mel Reyna. So, we get finals on all of our stuff. We just stay on it when we do it. But we do sell a lot of houses of new construction, and the builder gets 98% there and doesn't quite get all the way to the threshold. We need to stay focused. And they keep saying, I got my final. And I got it. But that does not mean your project is final closed or that you have a certificate of compliance. He's 98% there. You gotta call and say final closed, and someone's gotta decide if they're gonna pay $105 for the certificate, which we should put in the file. If you're ever gonna resell these houses, you want that. Okay?
Can you look up 70610.5, which is?
I can. I would bet there is no way that thing is final. But we can look. Now, if you're selling a house like this, you almost always can find a project number. I get a habit of just going and taking a photo of the project number on my phone, so then I have a little record, so when I get back to the office, I can check on it.
Where you found that, on a permit?
Yeah, on the permit, on one of the inspections, it'll always have a project number on there. Yeah, so when you pull the permit, it's going to give you the project number. So you're looking for the project number, because 10.5 is another one of these tough streets. We'll see if we can find it. What's the address, 71?
706.
706, yeah, you ain't going to 10.5, I don't think. Let's just see what happens.
Isn't it 10? It's 10?
Yeah, just leave.
And then what?
Yeah, try just 10 and it'll pop up, because the half will never really. Just
Right.
try 10 and see how many we get.
Yeah, it's east, 10.
If you change out commodes, do you have to get a permit?
Are you supposed to by code? Yes. The plumber, the licensed plumber is supposed to do it. Okay, let's just pick up, those were all the demo ones up here, I can tell. Yeah, let's look up this one, 14, you got the number?
14, 11, 8. Go back.
You got the number?
Bill, what about if the senator disclose something, can you ask the senator to disclose it? Since, okay, this,
Give me an example.
for instance, there was an AC installed without inspection.
Okay.
He put in his disclosure that,
Not permitted.
right, so you find this and you say, hey, Sarah, you may have forgotten this.
Well, I mean, if they know they didn't get a permit, they're never gonna go get a permit.
Right, but they can disclose they did that.
They can disclose that they did it without a permit. It is very common in my world to do work without a permit. People live on it. All right, so Mark, here's what's going on. Let's start at the beginning. They do not have their final, but they're doing very well. I mean, they have plumbing, electrical, building, HVAC, all kind of approved here. Let me see what's happening right here. They need a pure letter, probably. I would bet you anything they poured, and the engineer has to write a letter, and which is very common. October 7th.
What exactly does administrative correction mean?
It's pending the engineering letter. The engineer needs to get the letter, they give it to the inspector, they would clear out this section, so that's, I didn't mean to go, yeah.
No.
What was your question?
Admin correction.
Okay.
What all does that?
So I have 624 Birdsall, but it was permitted as 62. I have 23rd Street, Damien's 23rd Street, and we're gonna rename it Cortland. It's on the corner, I'm gonna go make it 501 East Cortland Street, or what, 2321 Cortland versus 501 East 23rd. I can do that all administratively.
Oh, okay.
It's usually something simple.
Does the door have
This meant that the inspector doesn't have to go there anymore as long as they have the letter.
If they just provide the letter, yeah, he didn't have to go anymore. It can all be done administratively.
Does the door have to face Cortland?
No, it does not.
No.
The numbers just do.
Okay.
The door doesn't matter.
The numbers.
All right, so Mark is telling me we need a pure letter. Probably got that one fixed. They probably got some variance with that. They got something outstanding here, but they just need to, they obviously owe a little money. They need to pay a fee. Could be the plumber, could be the electrician. They probably owe 40, see if it tells us how much they owe right here. No, if they gotta pay a fee, I can tell they owe some money. And it's gonna keep it out there until they pay. So they're close, but I would print this out circle those little things, send it on to Caroline and say, will you please work on these items are outstanding. And just stay on her ass until it gets final closed. When it says it's outstanding, right? I mean, it's gotta be common sense. It should say final close, we can show her an example. She probably barely knows this herself. Most agents do not ever have this lesson, I'll just be honest with you. You want to say final close, and then figure out who's gonna pay for the certificate. If the builder's smart, he'd go down and get them a certificate of compliance, but he may or may not.
So, since we're having this discussion, and we're out of the option period.
It doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't matter.
They're just required by closing. They're not required to have this done by the option. They have to be substantially complete. So it is a good question. So I'm co-opting with Becky. When I see online that West 17th has plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, I can say, Becky, schedule your client's inspection. I am substantially complete in order for their inspector to come in and inspect. Doesn't mean that I've got everything approved totally, but in-town homes can't make you inspect until they have got plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. That is what determines substantial completion. If they're not finished with the city and the city says it's outstanding, why would you want my guy to go and inspect it? You get legal and I'll come back and I'll have a third party reevaluate it. So they did pretty good. This pure letter is very common in my world. You know, it happens about 98% of the time. They had to put in their trees, it had to be a certain caliber, they got that. Looks like they got their sprinkler system. This is sprinkler system. This is removing the temporary gas to get the permanent gas. I mean, and if you need help, Frank and Brandon and I are experts on this. I mean, you can pretty well interpret, or you can call down and speak to an inspector at any particular time if you have a particular question, or the homeowner has a particular question, or the buyer has a particular question.
Sometimes under comments, the inspector will leave his name and number.
Yeah, here he is, Robert down here left his phone number. We can call Robert on his city-issued phone. Robert predominantly wants to answer his phone from 7 in the morning to 8 in the morning. He doesn't really want to answer his phone. They return calls the next morning. They tend to go in early. They get off by 4. When they're out in the field, they rarely talk on the phone. Did Pete call me back, Brandon? Didn't matter. I just called the city inspector to ask a question. Okay. Need a permit to replace the HVAC or the water heater. You need to get it final. It needs to be inspected, needs to be approved. And for that minor deal, it'll just say at the bottom, project is closed out. You know, if it says it's expired, someone's got to go open up the permit. It's been more than 6 months and no inspection was called, it is going to expire. It's not going to hang out there forever. You'd have to go back and reissue it. That's why you don't want to go down this path and then go to sell in 2 years and the new buyer finds out you never got your finals.
So when we do a contract, or we're representing the buyer on new construction, should we, as one of the conditions in the letter, put all
I would.
permits must be finalized?
Seller to get final inspections and have final project, final closed. Okay. You don't want to just, I mean, we should. Really smart agents should do that sort of thing, especially the unscrupulous ones. The builders, which there's plenty of them. They do not know how to do it. Remember, every insurance agent and lawyer is a builder these days, and they rarely know how to do this. But we can help them along. Okay, other questions about permits?
So you must get the certificate of compliance in order for this to be final closed?
You don't have to have a
Because you keep saying phone
certificate.
call, so you don't have to.
You don't have to have it. There's no requirement for the
Okay.
little certificate. The requirement is for the final close.
And you call for that, and you say.
You
everything's
call and you
done?
get, yes.
Okay.
You can call and get it final closed, and then you decide, do you want to go down and you pay at one point and get it the next time. So if you pay in the morning, you can pick it up in the afternoon, pay in the afternoon, you can pick it up the next morning. You can't go down and pay for it to get it.
Or like you say, you can print it.
If you just print this and it says final closed, you're just fine. So let's put in 539 Merrill. Pretty God, we're closed out. That's just luck. I didn't look before closing. We get a permit for the site?
Two R's or wire?
Merrill, 2 L's, 2 R's. Let's see how to get here. Here we go. Lombard Realty had a permit. That's a good thing. 1, 5. Here's the new house at 539 Merrill. We got all this stuff approved. We canceled, we did not build the summer kitchen.
Final close, look.
Final close. And we never built the final kitchen, so it was on the plan, so we had to go down and remove, and they had to come out and do a site visit to remove the outdoor kitchen. Final close, we have a little certificate. Oh, that's lovely.
What's structural emergency?
Probably a night, we were in a hurry, we wanted to come at
Oh,
night, so
oh,
we
right.
pay extra for
Yeah,
them to
got
come
it.
after
That's-
4 o'clock, you
yeah.
have a night or
Expedite,
weekend.
yeah.
That's almost
Not
always.
emergency, right.
Now, what's this high volt lines? That sounds like it's down below structural emergency.
There was nothing, if, it would say request, if there had been something that says we're building under the high line or something, but it didn't show up on the plan, so that's why it's not there. The stuff that's not there is kind of the blanket form, and if you go to pull a permit, you say, okay, I'm building 2-story detached garage, 10 higher than 8 feet.
Okay, and this is all we've all been talking about in historic districts.
No, this is just
No,
the city.
anywhere.
No,
Anywhere.
the historic district, the
Anywhere.
only thing we're talking about was certificate of appropriateness. I mean, that's, you have to have the certificate of appropriate first for anything outside, and then you get a permit, and then you get the certificate of compliance.
Okay.
The appropriateness is just, okay, the work you want to do has been approved by historic.
Okay,
So that's
And then you have to do
certificate
the
of
work you said you're
appropriateness.
gonna do.
Certificate of compliance is we did the work,
okay.
certificate of occupancy is, your.
Hey, so how would somebody that's just bought a house know that if you?
They'd get a letter that says the project's outstanding. They'd get a permit.
I never knew, did I need a permit to get a new commode? I mean, I just.
You did, yeah, you don't know. The city.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, I'm not sure.
The city's not usually gonna chase you down
The
because you
city
didn't
wants
get a permit for a
revenue.
new
I
equipment.
know that.
So,
I would think, yeah, a permit for that or whatever.
yeah, no one gets a permit to replace a canal.
Thank you.
No one gets a permit for that.
Yeah, that's true, I'm gonna do another.
They don't. I mean, I'm just telling you, they don't get it to replace a water heater. They should, because they ought to be concerned about the ventilation. Replacing the water heater is not that big a deal. Anyone could probably.
We just
do it at
rated
home.
upstairs to the attic and out of the kitchen.
You just gotta see how the vent penetrates
Yeah.
and if it's raised appropriate. I mean, that's what the city, for the homeowner, it's another set of eyes to make sure the plumber did it legally. You paid him, so I mean, I wouldn't pay the guy's final work until you got the permit. It is a guarantee for the homeowner. But you gotta need common sense. When the AC goes out on Friday, they're just replacing the AC. They're not calling for an inspection for that sort of thing. Why the AC people don't get in more trouble, I don't know. The roof is the next biggest deal. We're not organized in the city, so to patch or replace some shingles, less than 128 square feet or something, you don't need a permit. To re-roof, by code, you need a permit. So you go down and they issue this permit, okay? But there's no inspection for the roof. There's no way for it to ever go away. So we don't have roof inspections. It's not one of those things that they inspect.
I
So
did get
if
a
they
permit
flaw.
for my
Oh,
roof.
well, sure, because your roof were
Yeah, my
always
roofer
for that,
did.
yeah. there were-
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised the number, most people do not get a permit for a roof. They do not. So the city has a deal, you can go to the deal and you can play, and they have these certified roofers in the city of Houston.
They're
that
cheap?
can do the work. You know how many there are? In the whole city. There's three certified people that have provided their insurance to the city, that are roofers, that have general liability insurance that you should use. So if you go to the roofer authorized.
Well, should we have that in our call list? I mean,
Well, no,
those three
because how-
roofers?
No, you're only gonna use 3 roofers.
I didn't wait till 2018 to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. If you're lucky, if you call today,
It's there.
you can get it in 2018.
If there's not a hurricane between now and then.
Exactly.
No, go up. There's a roof approved list. But no, okay. Questions on permits? I don't want you to leave here until you understand permits, yes?
Okay, so the historic, back to the historic people who did not do what they were supposed to do.
At 536.
I mean,
They can, so, you can go to the HAHC and beg for forgiveness and see if you can get it. They went and were turned down. So they said, no, you must go put it back the way that it was planned. Your blueprint showed you were gonna do this, go put it back that way.
Well,
there, then the owner just say.
Actually, what happened was before the contract, or during the contract, they had a hearing with the seller. And they sold it, they got denied, they sold it 2 weeks later. They re-red tagged it in, May. So and that was the first time the buyer found out about it.
So then what can the city
So
do to you?
City can do all kinds, I mean, they can fine you $500 a day, they have not historically been in the fining business or whatever. They will continue to press them to fix it, or they will go remove their water meter. And then you don't have water at your project.
That sucks.
I mean, they have to have some enforcement. They have a fine. We're not in the habit of fining, although they could fine. I mean, they could file a lawsuit against the person. They can, I mean, there are a number of things they can do. What would they literally do? The easiest thing for them to do is give them so much time to fix it. When they don't fix it, the city owns the water. Remove the water meter. It's not habitable. Can't live there. Go fix it.
Can you drill a well in the city?
You can't. You can drill a well. You can drill a well. We have them in for your sprinkler system. The city wants the revenue from your primary water source, but you can't drill a well for sprinkler.
What are those people that are totally off the circuit? I know of one guy off the grid.
But he's not in the city of Houston.
He's in the city of Houston.
There's no, and so he uses solar, and he doesn't.
He's everything. He's totally off the grid.
Where?
In his water.
What part of the city?
He didn't do it legally.
He didn't?
He didn't do it legally.
Okay, it's,
I had a well also in Bateman had a well. It was the original house that had a well. I could never get a permit with the well. I removed the well. With the well there, I was commercial also, so I couldn't get homestead exemption or anything. So
did you have to remove the well?
I had to remove the well.
Wow.
Okay. How have we done on permitting? 101.
This is good.
Very, very
We're gonna send you the link.
Is that?
We're gonna send you the link.
I mean, this is using, you know, I can't find it.
Okay. All right. We will send you the links for how to find the address,
Yes.
how to pull in the project number, and the little link of what you need for a permit. We won't try and make it too complicated there. Just kind of those three things. If you need something more, it's hard to understand what some of those things mean. If you just need a special little deal, Frank or I can probably help you with that.
And we'll put those in the resources for back
Just so
agent
you understand,
and on the Facebook
it's a
page.
two-part process in the historic district. First, certificate of appropriateness, and then the permitting process.
Yeah.
You have to have both. One is the HAHC, and that's first.
That applies to non-contributing structures as well.
Applies to anything in the district, yes. You can get an administrative approval for some things. Like if you resell a 1999 house and you want to replace the door, you don't have to wait 30 days to go down before the HHC. You can get an administrative approval. You can get administrative approval to replace the rotten wood or, you know.
I got all that stuff.
All that, yeah. Okay, that's enough on permitting. How are we doing? All right, just 2 minutes on the ethics thing, just because I want to start talking about a couple of these things. We've had a couple of these instances, so it just brings it up or whatever. One is like this 824 Arlington. It's a perfect example. You're now in possession of something. I represent the seller. The stupid neighbor, makes some allegation. I did not agree with the neighbor. I didn't agree at all. I think the neighbor was wrong. I didn't agree. But still, I had an obligation to provide information. Now I know the next door neighbor thinks there's a problem and is calling the city and meeting with the city. I immediately let that other agent know so that it could be addressed here. So when you become in contact of some knowledge, then I think we have some obligation to provide the information as quickly as possible. Okay? That was a scenario. I don't think there's any more question about that. I had a scenario, Crockers, this scenario. My clients were making an offer on a house. They Google what people do. They Google all the sellers or whatever.
Yeah.
They find the husband had a battery charge against the wife, had been arrested, had financial problems, had a little laundry list of things about the seller. I did immediately I got it from my seller. I got the information from my seller, long laundry list about the sellers. I gave it to the other agent, Kathy King. She did not give that information to those sellers then. What I said is, here's the information my clients are looking at. I want you to be aware of what I'm dealing with on my side. I did not get the information. My client, who is 60, has a 40-year-old attorney son, and that son provided the information to his parents, who provided it to me. I provided it to the other side over there. We negotiate, we close at the end. He finds out I gave this information to the other agent. He files an ethics complaint against me, my very first ethics complaint or whatever, with the state of Texas, saying that I had undue information that gave me an inherent advantage in the negotiations. Now, this is his claim.
Wait,
you're confused, because you're saying buyer and seller.
The seller filed an ethics complaint against me because I knew this information, and about him, that was not accurate. I don't know if it's accurate or not. Allegedly, it's not accurate. I don't know. This is what I gave it to the other agent, so the agent could counteract and say, that's not true, they love one another, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Why does that matter when you're buying a house?
I don't think it matters either. I'm just telling you, this is an ethics complaint.
Yeah, the question isn't whether or not it matters, it's what you do with the information.
Honestly,
No, the question is why are they
denied
don't
his
care?
complaint. And automatically he goes back and files another appeal on the complaint, which is where we're at today at the moment in this appeals process. I don't think he has a valid deal, but it's another example. Now, I will be honest with you, that agent, who was in the middle of switching firms at the time, going from John Daugherty to Martha Turner or whatever, I believe and I'm not having conversations with the guy. He obviously thinks I had undue information. I gave it to his side, right?
Yeah.
How did I have undue information if I give it to you and ask you to do something? You know, you can tell me it's wrong, or you can tell me whatever. I mean, I didn't have any more information than you had, but his agent didn't provide it to him. He found out about it 6 months later. His ethics complaint should be with that agent, not with me, right? I mean, that's what I say, but I mean, I just think that's interesting over there. They can file these complaints. And he's very passionate about his complaint. I mean, very, very passionate. That information, you know, provided an undesirable situation for him to sell and duress, and I used my position and influence in order to take advantage of this poor seller, It's been denied, but it's just one of those things I'm dealing with. Yeah?
Well, not to get too picky, but how could he have duress about something he didn't know about?
That's what I'm wondering, but I don't know. We haven't really followed because Trek makes it go away.
He didn't even know.
I don't like these.
But wait, the 40-year-old son said this about his father?
No, the 40-year-old son was the son of my client, the buyer. Provided the information.
Okay, I want to go back to the original part.
It's not true, and nobody knew, so what's
Just
the,
said
somebody
sellers.
can't duress about something.
Just buyer. You're explaining it.
Yes, I represent the buyer. The seller felt like I took unfair advantage of it.
Okay, but I just want to go back to
A year.
the original part. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if my seller sent that, if my client sent that to me about some seller, I would just go, okay, fine, whatever. I would not have thought to
give it to
forward
the
that
other
on to the other agent because I'm thinking it has absolutely zero to do with the actual transaction of
But it doesn't
I'm
matter.
buying
If
and
it
selling to this house.
If it
So,
was not-
I know, I won't be able to answer it because I just don't understand why he would have forwarded that on. I would
Because
never have done that.
My client's making an offer based on some assumption. It may or may not have been accurate. So if it wasn't accurate, my guy's thinking, okay, the wife just filed suit on him and he's laying in jail. He's probably more apt to want to sell than
Okay.
if that wasn't true or whatever. So I felt like, because I didn't want my people who did, like every other buyer at that time,
Right,
started
they do,
$300,000
absolutely,
under
yes.
the asking
Yes,
price,
yes,
and then
yes.
it was $200,000 under the after it was $2.5 million. They lowered it to $2 million. We kept offering $1.6 million.
Okay.
You know, and we kept trying to say it was because we needed the $100,000 elevator, and we were remodeling it. We didn't give them credit for what it looked like.
But now they come back and think the reason you were doing that was because of this.
That's right. It
Okay.
was.
That's the reason he accepted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
They were getting a divorce. And he wasn't living in
But
the
how
house.
did you know they were getting a
If you
divorce?
see any
I mean-
men's clothes in the deal, you figure out that's a divorce, right? We don't have to be rocket scientists to figure that out.
So do we need to, every time we assume that there's a divorce involved, we need to say,
No.
we assume that you're having a divorce? I mean, you see my point?
It
I mean, you
was-
see my point to that? I don't get it.
Everyone Googles everyone. We know if they've been transferred. We know if they've taken another
Right.
position. We know if they've been fired. I mean, come on. We know if their stock is tanking. I mean, it's not like we don't know.
If we
If it-
know they're moving, because of a no.
I totally agree with that, and usually if they're transferred, they'll say there's more documents that have to be signed and blah, 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 blah. But if I'm gonna assume, because there's no men's clothes in the closet, I'm gonna say that to my client.
And you can say that's
Look,
fine.
there's no.
Looks like a
but-
divorce to me.
Exactly, but then do I have to acknowledge that to the other agent?
For instance,
I don't have any men's clothes, well, maybe.
But you know what I mean, though, you know what, I'm gonna say that, it's a
The assault
possibility.
charge, which it was clear that there was a divorce. It
Okay.
was clear, and there was animosity between the husband and wife.
So he's targeting you for that animosity,
And when
basically.
she filed battery charges against him, and he was pulled out of the house in handcuffs or whatever, and all the
Okay.
neighbors know about it, I felt like that was fairly extreme, that we needed
Okay,
to
so that's
throw
what
it out
really
to the other
prompted you,
side.
that it was extreme. You
That
felt like
it
if there
was
was
extreme.
arrests involved and
Yes.
da-da-da-da, that was what you said, this is pretty extreme, I need to
Yes,
cover my ass.
yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
When's he gonna be able to sign the papers from jail?
No,
Do we need to schedule that with the?
I wasn't saying anything was true or not true.
No, I know, I was like, where does it, because we talk about the reasons people are selling all the time, and that's why I was like, I wouldn't.
There is a
I
reason
would,
they're
at some
selling.
point in time, you cross the line to think this is a problem, and I wanted to know
You
what
can't
that
say-
line was.
I mean, as the professional, I assume that they want a bigger house or a smaller house. for
Right, I
stress
mean,
or-
yeah, they
and
got
there's
rid of
a
their
reason.
kids,
Some
and
people
now
are
they're,
downsizing, they've already,
Yeah.
whatever, you know. But I think if we're given some information that is almost providing one side an advantage, you almost are forced to give it to the other side as quickly as possible. Don't hold on to it. It'll look worse if you had the information, you go to closing and we never provided information. I provided it immediately.
Now, should we
There's a
provide that to you
document.
too?
There's a document where it says, it's a, what is that?
Information from other sources.
Exactly, yeah, but there's something, I mean, I've got a client right now that's saying, I don't want you to tell where I work, what I do, where I'm going.
That information is confidential. It is
So it's
confidential.
that confident.
It is confidential.
It
and
is,
I agree,
period.
it is
Yeah.
confidential.
When people say,
But
is there
someone's
a
going to
divorce?
ask, so what is it that you expect me to say?
Yeah.
I mean, you take a listing.
This is none of my business, I
Right.
don't, I do that,
And
but there are people that are.
If they want to.
Yeah.
And you should make him aware that people Google all the time, so if there's any print of him out there, it didn't come from you, it could have come from somewhere else.
But a reality check for people who are out in the field doing this every day, and that means all of you guys, how much magic is there to that? Like, people always ask that, and I just say, the seller has done her residency and now she's doing a fellowship in Michigan. That's why she's leaving, because they'll find out.
They're gonna
anyways,
find
out.
like, what's with the
Right.
bad magic?
Right,
Oh,
right,
they have a reason to move.
My
Well, sure,
God,
I've
they go
been selling-
immediately to Facebook and
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
why would
Right,
they be
right,
selling
exactly.
houses
People
if
do
they
that
don't
all the
wanna
time.
move? Like,
Right.
that's just
What does that
something
have to do?
like,
It
yeah.
doesn't give an unfair
If they didn't wanna move, they wouldn't even have the house on the market.
We had a deal the other day. It was a multiple offer situation. It happens all the time. What doesn't even matter, but I mean, there were a wide variety of price points. Some below the list price, some over the list price, some over in cash, some over in financing, a wide variety. Thank God there was a wide variety. The buyer that didn't get it, of course they're going to watch these things. You know, if it's something's $350 and someone offers $355 cash and they don't get it, you know they're gonna watch, right? I mean, they're gonna watch.
Absolutely.
They're almost all gonna watch
Yes.
anyway. So they watch to see who the other agent is, they watch to see when you're on the option period, they watch to
Yes.
see the final close price or whatever. This one did, when it closed, was less than what they had offered. Things happen, and inspections were.
Sure.
And it was fine. I just want, it happened. We did save all of the information, because if you get multiple offers, save all these offers. Because the same thing. We had, and when they filed their little complaint, it was because it looked like it was in-house. In reality, it was not in-house. We had made a mistake, and there was another agent that was not in the firm, which made it look much better. But we do go off in-house all the time. So I can't say that's the only reason. But because it was in-house, and they offered X, and we closed significantly less than what they had offered in-house, it does put off a
Were
red
they
flag.
cash?
We managed to go to Nathan right quick and correct. They were cash. They were both cash in this instance, which is nice. But yeah, just keep all your offers. We were able to show, look, there was an offer higher than yours, cash, that they didn't take either. They don't have to take the highest offer. There's none or no offer. The seller chose on their own how they wanted based on their own information. We gave a reasonable amount of advice. In inspections, other things came up. We dealt with it accordingly, and it was fine. We didn't do anything wrong. I'm just saying, you have to be aware that there's a higher level of scrutiny in these situations or whatever, and just save your information in case that we're, and I think we handled it just fine, we got back immediately, I provided the first pages of the 6 offers, showing, I mean, there's lots of variables other than price also, there's lots of variables, but it was fine, it all went away, we didn't do anything wrong, we did everything right, it doesn't mean people won't complain.
Oh, yeah, I've had
And
people
it's all
call, other agents call up really mad, and I feel like, where have you been, you
Right.
know? Inspections, all those other things.
Okay, well, I just wanted to talk about those 3 things. Okay, any other questions at the moment? A lot of valuable information today. Okay, thank you very, very much. I'll be around when we're good. Thank you, Frank. It was getting too long to do this, but they're going to watch that. I'll be
Good.
Well, we did.
And how did it,
What day